vigil is set to begin next hour for the 5 people killed in Monday's shooting at a bank. The shooting has renewed calls in that state for action from Democratic lawmakers. It's a state with some of the laxest gun laws in the country on that front, and leading those efforts is the mayor of Louisville, who was a target himself of gun violence last year. And joining me now is the mayor of Louisville, Craig Greenberg. Mayor Greenberg, welcome to Meet the Press. You now join a whole bunch of mayors around this country who've been in this exact position. You've had this massive loss of life via gun violence. Sometimes it's one event, sometimes it's a lot of events over a period of time. And there's only so much you can do besides rhetoric, right? Because at the end of the day, it's state laws, it's federal laws. So let's start with, you said you need help from Frankfurt and Washington. That is rhetorically true. How do you make that statement a reality?
Well, I'm already hard at work at that. We've been doing everything we can at the local level, consistent with Kentucky law, to try to reduce the amount of gun violence since I took office literally 100 days ago today. But now I'm calling on, as you mentioned, for more help. And so the good news is I am cautiously optimistic today that after our call yesterday to work together, putting politics aside and just focusing on areas of agreements and solutions to end the constant gun violence that we're seeing in cities like Louisville and across the country. I've heard from members of the state legislature, members of both political parties that want to talk, that want to work together to make some positive steps forward. And so we're going to have conversations in the coming days about what we can do together to take meaningful action.
Where do you do it? Because Kentucky passed a law, the General Assembly passed a law that literally makes the state a, quote, Second Amendment sanctuary state. And what the law means, according to Josh Bray, the state representative who wrote it, that it would that the law would bar local and state police from enforcing any federal firearm regulation that might attempt to ban guns or ammunition or firearm accessories like bump stocks that take effect after January 21st, 2021. So you throw that in there. That takes away a lot of things you could do, having to do with the weapon itself. But it doesn't address waiting periods. And that, to me, seems to be maybe the best realistic place to start.
There's that. There's issues related to red flag laws. They're of many different shapes and sizes. But I'm asking for 2 things initially. And this list can and will grow. One is local autonomy. We in Louisville have a unique gun violence epidemic that is different from other parts of our state of Kentucky. Just like in other issues, give us local autonomy to address our unique, horrible gun violence epidemic that we're dealing with right now. And second, in addition to the law that you just mentioned, there are laws on the books right now that would make me a criminal for implementing any efforts to try to reduce the amount specifically of gun violence that the real criminals are using the guns. That would make me a criminal. And we also have a law on the books right now in Kentucky that AR-15 rifle that was used to murder 5 people 2 days ago, and that was used to shoot at the rescuing police officers, will one day be back on the streets. Because right now, under Kentucky law, we are required to turn that gun over to the state, who in turn is required to auction it off. That is insane. That's dangerous. That's absurd. It's got to change. So I'm asking.
What was that? Do you have any idea what the motivation was for that law? I mean, it's truly not to waste any weapon.
No, I have no idea. The only possible answer that I have is that the proceeds of those auctions are used to support police departments and give them the equipment that they need. I firmly support that. We have plenty of money at the state and local level that we will ensure that our police officers have the resources they need to do their job, to keep us safe and to keep themselves safe. That is, of course, the #1 priority. But we don't need to auction off weapons to do that. And so we should have the local ability that if we want to destroy weapons that have been used to commit violent crimes, weapons that are illegally confiscated, we should be able to destroy them. Right now, I'd be a criminal if I had our city do that.
Let me ask you this, though, about wanting local autonomy and gun laws. That, in theory, sounds great. Ask the city of Chicago. But at the end of the day, the Indiana-Chicago-Illinois line isn't very far from the city, and you know what that means. Plenty of guns come in. Wisconsin has very loose gun purchasing laws. So it doesn't, Chicago has some tough laws on the books. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't stop the flow of weapons into the city. So while I get wanting autonomy, can it even work if literally state law is working against you?
We have the same issue here. Indiana is right across the river from where we are here in Louisville, but we have to start somewhere. And so to me, if we can find areas of common ground where we can start having conversations and taking actions and steps to reduce the amount of gun violence, whether it's mass shootings or whether it's individual shootings that happen far too often in cities like Louisville, then let's take those first steps. And slowly over time, we will build on them. I would love to do more, but I'm also trying to be realistic about what we can do. And so let's focus on what we can do together.
This is an election year in the state. The governor's up for re-election. A lot of the assembly. Does that can sometimes help a cause like this or hurt a cause like this? What do you think it's going to do?
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm just hopeful that in the aftermath of this tragedy, which has now directly impacted so many people in our city, that elected officials are ready to take action. People who are elected to office, if they're not going to take action to save lives, to prevent tragedies, why be in office? And so now with this hitting so close to home and with the amount of gun violence that we're dealing with on a weekly basis in Louisville and in so many other cities, I am hopeful that now is the time. And based on the feedback I've gotten over the past 24 hours, I am cautiously optimistic.
And that means, but realistically, we're talking red flag laws, and you're not talking about messing with the weapon itself, right? That's probably a bridge too far in Kentucky.
Well, we'll see. In the coming days, we're having a vigil tonight at 5 p.m. to mourn the loss of our friends who have been murdered this week. Conversations will begin in the coming days, and so we'll see where they lead. I will certainly be advocating for significant action, but I definitely want to make sure that we have results, and so we'll see where that ends up.
Mayor Greenberg, I was saying to you this off camera. I mean, I think the toughest job in America these days is to be a mayor of a city of any significant size these days of population. It is not easy. Moments like this are just a reminder of that. Stay safe yourself. You were nearly a victim of gun violence yourself as a candidate. And here's hoping for the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chuck.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.